And for his perspective on this year's climate conference, I spoke to Earth Systems scientist Raghu Murtugudde.
And there has been some agreement. We still have a long way to go. So South Asia is getting hammered by climate change, especially countries like Pakistan, Bangladesh with sea level, Pakistan with widespread floods. So how to deal with these vulnerabilities in the region? It's about agriculture, it's about energy, it's about transportation, health, and so on. So we are expecting that somehow the rich countries and the COP28 as a whole will continue to develop this mechanism better and help adapt, build capacity in the region, and help the countries to do the early warnings, to deal with short terms and also projections more reliable, more local, going into a decade or longer. And technology transfer, knowledge transfer, all these things are going to be critical. There has been a few forward steps just in terms of agreeing in theory that this has to be done, which has been a problem because it implies for rich countries, it implies liability, and they are worried about it. Maybe it's for good reasons, but let me give you an example. So Middle East, which is a desert, is warming really fast because with global warming, the deserts don't lose their heat at night as humidity increases. So Middle East is one of the most fast warming land regions. That is causing wind changes and warming over the Arabian Sea. That is causing the massive floods over Pakistan. So the question of loss and damage is always about attribution. How do we show that rich countries are responsible for what's happening so that they can compensate for the additional effects of global warming on the disasters that happen in these regions? But now it's quite clear that these extreme events in terms of heat waves and floods and related impacts on GDP and health and energy are directly related to the warming that are related to the greenhouse gases that are caused by the rich countries since the Industrial Revolution. So in that sense, it's good that they have agreed, but now comes the hard time of finding the funds to do it.
You know, we've just played a report on air pollution in Pakistan and India, for example, and air pollution here is, amongst other things, also linked to vehicular emissions, for example. And I therefore wonder from you, because vehicular emissions have been discussed at various COP summits, do you think any on-the-ground change has happened as a result of whatever discussions have happened on vehicular emissions, for instance, in COP summits so far?
Well, the push for EV is going forward, but the problem for any country, not only just South Asia, but all the countries, including European countries, US, North America, is that how are we actually charging the batteries? So if we are still using dirty energy to do it, then we are just shifting the pollution from where the vehicular emission is, let's say in the urban centers, to regions where the power plants are. So this is still very tricky for all of us to say, how are we going to deal with vehicular emissions in an end-to-end way? So the renewables have to ramp up very rapidly. Storage and batteries for EVs have to be charged with clean energy. So it has a way to go, but the numbers are very encouraging because the number of EVs are increasing, renewable energy investments and deployments are increasing, and so on.
Do you think any real measures can be achieved at COP28, given that it's being hosted by a major oil producer?
So that's interesting. It's been discussed a lot. So what is the motivation of a fossil fuel country, an oil-producing country and region to do this? So they themselves have to worry. As I said, Middle East is one of the most rapidly warming places in the world. They are already so hot. So if it comes out that we will have to leave the oil in the ground, assets in the ground, what are their ways forward? They have to think for themselves. So they have really, really good reasons to worry about global warming and adaptation mitigation and COP28 to be successful. So they are doing it for the good reasons, and let's hope that not too much lobbying will happen to suppress any of the measures that will begin to phase out fossil fuel investments, especially in terms of locking in the infrastructure that is still relying on fossil fuels like internal combustion engines for cars and so on. So the quicker we can phase out these fossil fuel technologies and infrastructure, the better it is for everybody, but they themselves have to plan for the future as well.
We'll leave it there for the time being, but thanks so much for sharing and all of this context with us. Raghumurthy, good day. Thank you so much, sir.